So at this station, we're going to go ahead and be looking at rotations. So let's look at the first example. Point A was rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise to create point A prime. So this time we actually have it drawn for you, but we can use our patty paper to kind of mimic what it is that they did. So whenever we're using our patty paper, we're going to try to write on the rougher side. That'll be easier for us to write with. And it's easiest if we use pencil. So we're going to go ahead and trace it. Trace the X and Y axis first. And then we're going to trace the original point. So that is going to be A, the one without the prime. And let's go ahead and label that one A. Okay. So we have our point, and so now we're going to rotate it. Here, 90 degrees counterclockwise. So counterclockwise will be going in this direction. 90 degrees will be a quarter turn. So that'll be right here. What do you know? A prime, that's exactly where they drew it for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at A. The coordinate for A was -2, -3. And then the coordinate for A prime was 3, -2. So we're gonna go ahead and first we wanna check if it's still X, Y, or Y, X. Rotations is the only one where X and Y can switch spaces. So for example, -2 was in the front, we could have -2 in the back now over here. Since -3 was in the back, 3 might be in the front. So rotations is the only one where we're going to be looking for that change. So it was -2, -3, now it's 3, -2. This was X, Y. I know automatically that -2 is not in the front anymore, so Y came to the front. So it changed to Y, comma, X. Now we're going to look and see which one became the opposite. So here, it was -2, the X. Now we're going to look at the X over here. It's still -2, so the X stayed the same. We leave that one alone. Now let's look at the Y. The Y was -3. Now it's +3, so the Y became the opposite. Remember, just like how we did in reflections, we're going to signify the opposite by putting a negative in front of it. So X, comma, Y changed to -Y, comma, X. So we can go ahead and write our rule. X, Y changes to -Y, comma, X. So really we're just rewriting what we wrote up here. We have the arrow between them, we put our parentheses, and we have our rule written looking at these coordinates. Let's go ahead and do another example. This time we're going to need to rotate the point ourselves. So here it says point B was rotated 180 degrees clockwise to create point B prime. So let's go ahead and use our same coordinate. Let's not waste paper. So let's line it up. And then this time we're looking at point B, so let's plot it and then label it B, so that way we know that we're looking at point B now. So I know I'm looking at this one, not this one. That was from the last one. So let's go ahead, this one we're going to rotate 180 degrees clockwise. So let's go ahead and rotate it clockwise as in this direction. That's a quarter turn, that's 90 degrees. Another quarter turn for a total of 180. So B is now going to be right here. So let's plot that point. This one will be B prime, and then let me just make sure it matches up. It does, good. Okay. So B was originally 3, 1. And now B prime is -3, -1. So B was originally 3, 1. B prime is -3, -1. So let's go ahead and look at those points again. So again, this is XY. That's the original. I want to first check, is it still XY or is it YX now? Does it look like they switched places? Well, 3 was in the front, 3 is still in the front. So I know that X is still in the front, Y was in the back, Y is still in the back. We still have the 1 in the back. But now we're going to look to see if they became opposite. So it was 3, now it's -3. That became opposite, so we can add a negative in front of it. It was 1, now it's -1. That also became opposite. So we can add a negative in front of it. Remember, the negative doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a negative number, because it doesn't need to be. It just means that it's going to be the opposite of the original. So we can go ahead and write our rule. X comma y changes to -x comma -y. Now let's go ahead and look at our third example. This time we have a full triangle that we need to rotate. Triangle CDE was rotated 270 degrees counterclockwise to create triangle C prime, D prime, E prime. So we don't necessarily need to rotate the whole triangle. We just need to rotate a specific point. So let's go ahead and fill out the coordinates for D and D prime. So we're going to first write the coordinate for D. So D is -1, -2. And then let's go ahead and use our patty paper again and rotate it. So we'll clear off this quadrant for it. So we're going to be looking at D. So we're going to be looking at this. These are from the old problems. So let's go ahead and rotate this one 270 degrees counterclockwise. So we're going to be rotating it in this direction. So when I do a quarter turn, that's 90 degrees. A quarter turn is 180, and then one more quarter turn, and we end up with 270 degrees counterclockwise going in this direction. So D is now going to be right here, so let's go ahead and mark that point. Still matches up, so that's going to be D prime. So I already have the coordinate for D. The coordinate for D prime is going to be -2, 1. Let's go ahead and mark them as XY is my original. So first I want to see, is it still XY or is it YX? So the -1, now the 1's in the back, so the X is going to be right here. And so the Y -2 is now in the front. The Y is going to be up there. Then we're going to see which one became opposite. So X was -1, now it's +1. The X became opposite, so we're going to put a negative in front of it because it became opposite. The Y, it was -2, it's still -2, so the Y stayed exactly the same. We're going to leave the Y alone. So we start off with X comma Y, and that changes to Y comma -X. If you haven't paused it to try it on your own yet, you're going to pause it right now for this last one, so that way you can make sure we know what we're doing here. Triangle FGH was rotated 270 degrees clockwise to create triangle F prime, G prime, H prime. So we're going to go ahead and pick a specific point again. We don't need to rotate the whole shape. So here we have F that we're going to be looking at. So F is 2, 4. We're going to use our patty paper, match up the X and Y axis, and then we're going to plot. We're going to go ahead and plot F right here, mark it as F so that way we know which one we're looking at, and then we're going to rotate it. Make sure you matched up your X and Y axis. We're going to rotate this one 270 degrees clockwise. So here we have 90, another quarter turn we have 180, another quarter turn we have 270. So this is my new F coordinate. I'm going to go ahead and lift up the paper, plot that point right there, make sure it matches up. It does, so this is F prime. Okay. So F prime is -4, comma 2. So we're going to look at these coordinates. So here it was originally X comma Y, how we always start off. And then we're going to see if they switch spots. So X was in the front, the 2 was in the front, now the 2's in the back. So the X moves to the back, the Y here was in the back, now it's in the, it's in the front. So it was 4, and now the -4 is up here in the front. So we have Y comma X. And then we're going to see if one of them became opposite. So the X was 2, it's still 2, so the X stayed the same. The Y was 4, and now it's -4. So the Y became opposite. We're going to put a negative in front of it. So let's go ahead and write our rule. X comma Y changes to, and then our change was, now the opposite of Y is in the front, and the same X is in the back.